These past few months have been interesting when it comes to me and my relationship with the Sonic franchise. This is easily the most my tastes have ever changed when it comes to things in the franchise that I like or dislike. If you look at my tier list video back literally 3 months ago and compare it to now, you'll quickly find out that despite being so recent, very little of that tier list has actually remained intact. Now the main reason for this is largely because of Sonic Daybreak actually, and me wanting to learn the philosophies of these games and finding out which ones I adore the most. And I've discovered a bunch of things when it comes to several different Sonic games. Placements in this tier list would make your average Sonic fan have a heart attack. They already have, don't look at the tweet. Superstars in S, but SA2 and C? What the hell is this? That alone could be the most controversial hot take I have, but it isn't. Maybe it is, I don't know. There was one thing I discovered that truly shocked me to my core though. You see, upon replaying the classic games, I've come to a realization that I largely prefer Sonic 1 to Sonic 2. Now, to some of you, you probably don't give a shit, who cares, but I know a lot of you probably jolted back in your seat upon hearing that. So I'm going to use this video as an excuse to talk about both Sonic 1 and 2, explain why I prefer 1, and why I really don't like Sonic 2 that much. Now, let me preface, I feel like I have to before people get on my ass. If you like Sonic 2, that's fine. If you hate Sonic 1, that's fine. Genuinely, I don't care. Just don't be a dick about it if you disagree. Quickly, if you enjoy the video, consider subscribing, and if you want to go the extra mile, support me on Patreon, link in the description. Let's get back to it. So, first off, these games are very different from one another in pretty much every way. A lot of people act really weird when you prefer Sonic 1 to Sonic 2 just because of Sonic 2 was an improvement in so many ways, when in reality, while it kind of is, these games are very different from one another. Sonic 1 is way slower and focused on platforming, while Sonic 2 cranks up the speed to keep a steady, traditional flow state and ditches most of the platforming. Sonic 1 gets a lot of flack for this, with several people claiming that the game completely changes its style of level design once you get to Marble Zone. Green Hill is this fast-paced, open, don't stop just go-oriented stage, and then suddenly everything slows down when you get to Marble Zone. You need to wait a lot more, platforming is cranked up to a 10, and the speed bumped down to a 1. It seemingly goes completely against what Green Hill goes for, and I'm not going to argue and tell you that that's wrong. Marble Zone is straight up a completely differently paced stage when compared to Green Hill. It is much slower, however, I don't mind that at all. As a matter of fact, I love it. I do get that the pace switch is jarring and can turn people off a bit after coming off the heels of Green Hill. However, Green Hill is paced the way it is, so you're able to fully get a grasp on Sonic's physics and controls. If the game started out in Marble Zone, you wouldn't be able to experiment and get accustomed with Sonic's physics because you wouldn't be given the freedom to. You need that freedom. Green Hill needs to juxtapose the rest of the stages a bit because if it didn't, you wouldn't play these more platforming-oriented stages with your momentum and physics in mind. Marble Zone and a majority of levels after it are not these super fast Sonic 2 style levels like you'd come to expect. They are physics-based platforming stages, more traditionally styled platformer levels that you're able to improve if you use physics. Now, every classic Sonic game uses physics in this same way, however, the way 2 does it is different. The way you use physics in Sonic 1 is more subtle than it is in other classic games like 2 and 3. I'm gonna try to explain this the best I can, so I apologize if I don't articulate this the best I can. In Sonic 2 and 3, physics are baked into the gameplay and level design directly. It's always obvious in these levels when the game wants you to do something like a slope jump or when it wants you to have enough speed for a shortcut. Not that the levels don't have their fair share of player expression, but I'm just saying most of the time it's obvious what the shortcuts are. In Sonic 1, the level design makes things less obvious. It isn't very clear when you're supposed to take advantage of your speed or slope. It's not immediately obvious what you're supposed to do, and sometimes you're not supposed to do anything. Certain slopes in this game exist purely to be experimented with. It's up to the player to find a use for them. Now, because of this, the speed in the game is way lower than it is in previous games. While there are sections where you're given a slope to roll down, they're very few and far between. You won't be going forward constantly. There will be moments, and plenty of them, where you need to do some platforming and take things a bit slower. This game's flow state is less akin to something like Sonic 2 and more like Mario Bros. After all, that is the basis for why Sonic was created. They wanted to take the flow state you could achieve in Mario 1 and make that the focus of the entire game. Essentially, this is a platformer that's gimmick is speedrunning via experimenting with Sonic's physics. People get this conception in their head that if Sonic isn't going at breakneck speed 24/7, it's a bad thing. In reality, that's not the case. In fact, it's the opposite. If you play this game as a platformer, it can be fun, sure, but it definitely feels a bit odd. This is a game that to truly enjoy, you must be good at, or at least decent enough at. This is why the game is a major turnoff for most people. It's pretty hard. And I'm not gonna claim skill issue to people that don't like the game for this. I think that's a totally valid reason to dislike something. However, when you are good at the game, stages like Marble Zone transform from this slow slog of a stage into this extremely engaging, challenging one that rewards skill and the time you've sunk into it. For me personally, this is what I enjoy the most about Sonic 1. It is one of the most rewarding games to master because of its difficulty. It feels rewarding to get a good flow state going and speed your way through these sections that were clearly meant to be taken more slowly. It feels rewarding to make your way through sections that are swarming with enemies and obstacles without taking a single hit. Also, yes, Labyrinth Zone, I still don't like it. It actually has decent level design, but the water kills it. I'm with you guys on that. I'm not defending that one. Every other stage, though, I adore them. Sonic 1 is one of the most engaging games in the franchise, and because of that, it feels rewarding to be good at, and I love feeling rewarded for being good at a game. This is where my gripes with Sonic 2 come in. Sonic 2, as you already know, focuses way more on the speed as opposed to platforming. Now, this didn't bother me for the longest time because, well, going fast is really exhilarating, it's a lot of fun. And that is true, don't get me wrong. However, after playing Sonic 1, those stages really make you earn your speed. Even if you aren't going Sonic 2 levels of fast, just going above average speed feels satisfying because of how you have to earn it. When I go fast in Sonic 1, I really do feel something. It feels satisfying to go fast because of the reasons already stated, but it's also much harder to maintain speed, which makes keeping it also feel much more satisfying. In Sonic 1, I am constantly rewarded for being good, and while I can't deny that you're rewarded for being good in Sonic 2, that feeling of satisfaction just doesn't compare. The most obvious reason why is because Sonic 2 has you constantly going fast. Frequently, there are dash pads or stretches of downward slopes that keep you going fast. Now, I'm fine with these moments of automation that act as a break in the action, or a reward for getting through a tough platforming section. However, they appear way too frequently in this game. These stretches of speed are handed out like candy, but also, Sonic 2's platforming is not particularly engaging or fun in my opinion. It feels extremely samey throughout, and it lacks any real challenge except for the last 3 zones. I don't feel rewarded when I get through a platforming section in this game because, well, they're all really easy. It doesn't require a ton of skill to get through any of these sections, and neither does achieving a good flow state. I'm not really rewarded for thinking outside of the box like Sonic 1, or not nearly as much. Player expression isn't rewarded as heavily as it is in Sonic 1. Now, while getting a good flow state in Sonic 2 can be fun, again, it doesn't really do it for me when getting speed should feel like a reward, yet I'm getting rewarded for doing the easiest things ever. I don't feel like I should be rewarded, and so when I am rewarded for doing the bare minimum, I don't really feel anything. I don't feel that satisfaction I felt when getting a flow state in Sonic 1. I noticed that this is something I've only felt recently. I assume most of you hear this and simply can't relate, and I get that. I would have called you crazy for saying this a month ago, but after playing Sonic 1 and getting good at it, Sonic 2 feels rather boring in comparison, which is ironic because its whole thing is being so much faster and cooler than Sonic 1. The novelty of going fast all the time sort of wears off over time and leaves me with a game that I just don't feel super satisfied playing. Ironically, I think Sonic could benefit from slowing down a touch. Crazy, right? And I'm not talking like cyberspace 2D slow, that's just being slow without a purpose. The original intent of going fast has kind of been lost. A lot of people treat you like Netanyahu when you say you wish Sonic games were a bit slower, but you forget that speed isn't supposed to be something you're supposed to be given easy access to at all times. Speed is a reward, an acknowledgement of skill, and I don't feel that with Sonic 2. Oh, by the way, don't play Sonic 1 with the spin dash. You aren't meant to use it. I see people mess up so much in Marble Zone because they keep spin dashing when a beginner player is really not suited for that kind of speed. Now, I feel it'd be unfair to exclusively talk about the good parts of Sonic 1 and the bad parts of Sonic 2 because, truth be told, there are parts of these games I like and dislike. As for Sonic 2, there's not a ton I love, but I will say I do like most of these stages for the most part. Mystic Cave, Casino Night, and Hilltop I think are the standouts of this game for me, largely because they're more engaging than the rest. Not that these stages are perfect by any means, I do have my gripes with them, but I dig them. I actually thought I had more to say that's good about Sonic 2, but that's like kind of it. I'm not really going to mention the visuals or music for either games because that's not really what the video is about. Obviously, they're amazing. I don't really have to talk about that. Sonic 1, I definitely think, is not friendly to beginners, and while I personally don't have a huge problem with that, as it just means all these stages are just more fun and engaging on repeat playthroughs, I do think it's a bit strange. I do think people getting really upset and saying a Sonic level needs to be great on a first playthrough is a little odd. Now, obviously, I want the game to be good in a first playthrough, however, Sonic is meant to be replayed over and over. Sonic has a lot of arcadiness in its DNA, and people often forget that. I'll say that the order of stage difficulty is a bit strange. I definitely think having a stage like Spring Yard before Marble Zone could have been a better idea, as Marble Zone is a noticeable difficulty spike when put right after Green Hill. I think the pace of the game as a whole could be better as well. Labyrinth Zone being stuck right in the middle is weird. It feels so strange to go from any of these stages into Labyrinth. It feels weird to go from Spring Yard to Labyrinth and Labyrinth to Starlight. It just doesn't feel right. And my final big gripe with the game, there's too much mandatory waiting. This is mainly a problem in Spring Yard with all the up and down platforms you need to go through. Now, while this would be a problem regardless, I think it'd be a lot better if there were top paths you could use as a way to bypass these, because surprisingly, not every one of these can be skipped. I find that there are top paths in Spring Yard that you can get to via slope jumping or what have you, but the reward is usually not worth it. It's usually just an item box in front of a dead end as opposed to an actual path that could be used to skip the sections of the stage nobody likes. See, unlike a lot of these agenda posters you see online defending the game, I have absolutely no problems with pointing out flaws my favorite games have. I mean, if anything, that shows you care for it more, right? CD, I glaze that game all the time, but I could still easily point out some flaws it has. So, to conclude, Sonic 1's a pretty good game when you put time into it. Also, to clarify, I still don't hate Sonic 2. It's a C tier for me. C tier is not F tier, and people tend to forget that. I hope you all enjoyed. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Subscribe to the channel and join my Patreon if you want to go the extra mile. I'll see you all next time. Peace.